Welcome to Gen X Adulting, and today we have Andrew with us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We're happy to have you here. So, our first question for our guests is always, what year were you born?
1986.
Okay, so you're our first millennial.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have a millennial here. No, I am so impressed with the millennials, and I've been wanting to get one on, so I'm just so excited to have a millennial here. Where were you born?
Maine.
And where in Maine?
Portland.
Oh, okay. I'm from Portland, Oregon.
Okay. Perfect.
So, I know I think Portland, Maine is smaller than Portland, Oregon, right?
Very small.
Oh yeah.
But it's still a city.
It is a city. It's I guess made up of a few different towns. Westbrook being one of them, and that's kind of where I grew up. So there's like a greater Portland area.
Okay.
And Portland's very diverse. Like you said, the bigger city. And then everything kind of branches off from Portland.
So suburbs or suburbs off of Portland.
We've been through there.
We did. We drove through there.
Yeah.
But we didn't spend any time there. We didn't stop.
No.
But it has a downtown.
Yep.
Right.
Small little fishing town.
Okay.
It has a downtown area where, like I said, big lobstering, fishing community itself. Tuna. My friends used to go out, catch big tuna, and try to bring it in and see how much money they can make. I had actually a family that we were very close with had like a 1,400-pound tuna. It was like
Wow.
the biggest thing when we were growing up.
Of course.
Everybody talked about it, and the father and the grandfather made like a boatload of money. For bringing it in.
Does it still have that fishing town vibe? I'm assuming it's grown a lot.
It's become more of like a craft beer hipster.
Yeah, cool.
The recreational marijuana.
Okay.
Everything like that has popped off.
Okay.
So cannabis, craft beer, fishing. I grew up in a small town where the main thing is the paper mill.
Okay.
So if you don't have a trade or if you don't work in the paper mill, a lot of times, you're feast or famine.
So is that paper mill still going?
Yep.
Oh wow.
It's called Sappy actually now.
Okay.
But we grew up actually. It was called SD Warren, and they were like this big sponsor of everything around town for the most part.
So
League.
Is that sounds like it's a timber town too then? A lot of cutting.
It's just fine paper, but yeah,
Okay.
definitely a lot of trees and everything up north.
Yeah.
Because they have another. I want to say the second location was further up north, but it wasn't as big as the paper mill.
Yeah.
In our town.
So it was the paper mill and fishing was the thing.
Yeah.
When you were growing up there.
Or a trade.
Or a trade.
Yep.
Is there a college there?
So you have University of Maine, which is Orono, which is like 3 hours up north, and then you have like the smaller community college.
Okay.
And there are some like Southern Maine University is like it's like a Palm Beach State type thing where they have branches everywhere, and it is they have sports athletic teams, everything like that. It's just a lot of not so much on campus students. It's more commuters.
Like a commuter school.
Yep.
So the town you grew up in, was it small?
Westbrook. Yep. Yeah. I couldn't even probably tell you the size of it, but there was 600 kids in our high school
total.
Oh, wow.
Total. Yeah.
So what was your graduating class?
172, I think.
Okay, so small. So how did your parents end up there?
So my dad's from Canada.
Okay.
His father left Canada and his family and came to Portland. My dad was like 17, came with him. His mom had passed away already, and his dad was like, "We're going to the States," and he was like, "All right."
What made him decide, do you think, to come to America?
I don't know so much because it's funny. His brother stayed in Canada and didn't come to Portland at all with the father, my father and his father. And he stayed in Canada back because he was starting his family and everything like that. And so he went to Portland High. They did. He started a car wash with his father, and after high school went on to the Navy, and then after the Navy came back, and he started working for Hannaford Brothers, which I think is on that same food chain as Food Lion, like that
Okay.
Publix. But Hannaford Brothers is like the grocery store,
Okay.
or the big grocer. So he was an accountant there.
Did he become a citizen or?
Yep. He's
Oh,
actually,
okay.
sorry, technically he's still on a green card. He did all his service on a green card, never been able to vote or anything like that. But
Wow.
was,
Oh, that's already, he's still on a green card. It's,
yeah,
what's that, 30 years or
yeah.
something?
And he's 77 now in assisted living, actually up,
Wow.
just a little further north from me. Yeah, he's in assisted living now.
Okay.
So he's 77.
In Portland?
No, here.
Oh.
So
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I pretty much moved my mom and dad have been living out of an RV, travel up and down East Coast for a while. And then when my dad got dementia, it took a toll on my parents during COVID. They sold everything, and my mom's like, "We're just gonna kind of roll. We're gonna go. We're putting the RV on the back of the truck. I'm taking dad. He's not. We don't have too much longer. We're gonna enjoy ourselves." And I was like,
Wow.
"Really?" And I was like, "You really sure you want to do this?"
How old was he when he got diagnosed?
72, I think was about.
Young.
Yeah, very. But
Yeah.
he's the oldest person living on his side of the family.
Really?
Everybody else was gone by like 56, 58. So he's
Wow.
kind of been on borrowed time. I joke around with.
Is there a common is it cancer? Is there a common thing?
Diabetes, just health.
Okay.
There's a lot of underlying health issues. His brother died of heart attack at 54. Dad died of a heart attack as well. He was 48, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and then actually my grandma, who I never got to meet, but she would have in today's world obviously lived, but just fluid in the lungs and everything like that, and had
Wow.
complications. I don't really know the full story about it, but
Right.
he was like 8 years old.
Wow. So 72, like you said, 72. That's
Yeah.
I mean, well, and is he still?
Yep. Still.
How
with
old
us.
is he now?
78.
Okay.
Yep.
And has his dementia progressed where he can't really participate in things anymore?
It's made it harder.
Okay.
It's like the loud noises, the constant, just reminders. I think he's very dependent on my mother, as well. And so sometimes he just wants it to either just be them two or just wants to kind of separate himself. So he's kind of the sole focus, I guess, in some way.
He probably gets overstimulated.
Right.
And so it's hard for him to focus too much on multiple things.
Loud noises. And he doesn't hear very well. And some of just like the habits, as he's gotten older have, I jokingly say it's like having another kid in some ways. It's like reteaching them and everything like that. And it does weigh on you a little bit for sure, but having him around, my daughter loves him. My daughter wants to push the wheelchair around and everything like that, and try to help Grampy out.
And does he recognize you and your daughter still?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And he's very like good in the mornings. I like that sundown thing. Like I never really understood it until I saw it firsthand, I guess. But that's a real thing. I mean, good in the morning, afternoon, and you just slowly see it start to digress and kind of almost show its signs a lot more.
Has it progressed to Alzheimer's or still more?
It's still more dementia. He remembers a decent amount, so it's not
okay.
But he does like a lot of the same stories.
Yeah.
That stuff is still pretty prevalent in that.
Where did your parents meet?
Actually, so my dad was a teacher assistant in a accounting class that my mom was taking.
In Portland?
Yep.
Okay.
It was USM is the school, but my dad was a graduate assistant, and he was working for Hannaford at the time, and still taking class. And my mom, they met there in class. My dad used to go out to the bars where my mom actually was living with my sister actually. And then my sister would call him and be like, "Are you out? Do you want to come over? My mom wants to see you." Things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He would go to the bar, and then he would go to her house, have a hot tuna on a bagel, and then go home.
So your mom was from Portland?
Yeah. Originally born in Keene, New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
And then my grandfather moved up to Bar Harbor. was in the Jackson laboratory, which was a big lab, did genetics testing on rabbits and rats. Like that.
Okay. And then do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have 2 half sisters.
Okay.
So one from my mom had a daughter from a previous marriage, and my dad had a daughter from a previous marriage. So
you're the baby.
yeah, and I'm joked around as the golden boy sometimes,
Yes.
as the younger
sure.
boy. Yeah, I get a hard time every
That
once
happens when there's all
real.
girls, and then the boy shows
Yeah.
up. That happens.
And being the younger one, and yeah, I mean, I've always just kind of known that I was going to be the caretaker. My sister on my mom's side's out in California now, and I have 2 nieces out there who she's a stay-at-home mom. My brother-in-law actually is in like the movie industry, kind of, so producing and writing. And then my other sister's up in Maine, and she's been there, and they're not married, but I always say that she's had a significant other for forever.
A partner.
I look at him like my brother anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And then your parents, after they did their road tripping, did they decide to settle down here because you were down here?
I think it was easier. It was a struggle for a while because I had to make the call to put my dad kind of in the assisted living. So when that came down, I don't say I'm closer to both them, but I guess I was the last one to live there at the house, grow up through everything. They've always come down here in the wintertime, even when they were in Maine. And they were accountants before. Again, they owned their own firm for a while, and when they sold it and I moved down here, they were like, "We'll come down here in the winter. I can do tax returns from everywhere."
Yeah.
It's much warmer, better place
Exactly.
as you get older.
And my dad loved it. It was a way to get out. My dad retired before my mom, roughly 8 or 9 years before my mom did.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So it was time to kind of for my mom to move on. Like they're 10 years apart, but my dad had a hard time being retired while my mom was still working.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So all of your formative years were in Maine.
Yeah.
Elementary, middle school, high school.
College.
And college. Did you play sports in high school or middle school?
I did. Baseball and hockey for the most part.
Okay.
And I swam for a while growing up, all the way up. When I got to high school, after freshman year, it was pretty much just hockey and baseball. And then I played baseball in college.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
What position did you play in baseball?
Pitched in college.
Okay.
Pitched and played first base kind of all through high school. And then I wanted to kind of dual position it. And then my freshman year of college, I happened to pitch very well and get into the rotation. And I was like, I'm not going to focus on first base anymore. I'm going to just pitch.
So where did you go to school?
St. Joe's. It's called St. Joseph's College in Maine. It's in Standish, Maine. It's on the water. Small liberal arts college.
Yeah.
But was very homey feeling to me in the sense that I needed a small school with structure. And I needed it couldn't be the 3,000 kids in every room.
Right.
Yeah.
The big classes. I don't know how I would have done with major events. Like my sister went to Clemson and I saw run the field. Yeah. And that was the first time I really saw big time football.
Yeah.
Or at least college football like that. It was always pro football up north. And even then the Patriots growing up weren't great, but my dad was always a diehard Giants fan.
Yeah.
And we got that stuff, but college football and that atmosphere, I don't know if I would have been able to handle. I would have been able to handle that.
Isn't that unusual to be from New England and be a Giants fan?
Yes, but the Giants were New England's first team before the Patriots were there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I will say that.
Did you know that?
I didn't actually. I thought the Giants were the Giants from New York.
So the Giants existed before the Patriots.
Correct.
So the Giants were the original team for New England, and then the Patriots showed up.
So says my father. But yeah.
We'll see if anyone comments on that.
Right.
Well, Belichick was the Giants coach before he went to the Pats.
Too.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So I want to go back to you played baseball in middle school and high school.
Yep.
So at the time, was youth sports as crazy then as it is now?
No. It was crazier in the sense that I felt like everybody in town played it. Like
Mm-hmm.
every kid had a little league team.
Mm-hmm.
Every like when we went to school, everybody talked about that. It wasn't like, you know, whatever season it was, basketball, everybody had a rec team, the indoor rec league.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like everybody gave each other a hard time and bragging rights throughout school or, you know, elementary school and things like that.
Yeah.
And now I feel like it's a lot more like crazy in the sense it's like targeted. Now we're traveling. Where are we going to go? Tournament here, tournament there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's expensive too. I mean, I think about ice time and like growing up, we were like, no, we're not going to the rink because it costs money to go play there, but we can put on skates and go out on the pond. Or
right.
There's a, you know, it's like, it was the cemetery really is what we called it, but they used to flood it. And you used to go back there and skate. And
on purpose?
Yeah, they would flood it always. And it was a little skating rink, but it was a mile, not even a mile from our house. And a lot of us would just walk down with our skates, stick, and go put out our shoes for goals.
Yeah.
And go skate out there. Just because it was.
I wonder if, I think the millennials were the last ones to have youth sports old school. If I had to guess. Because now all of the Gen Zs have been, it's all travel, it's hyper-focused, it's expensive.
It's situational too in that in the Northeast, because I grew up in New Jersey, we played football in the fall, basketball in the winter, and baseball in the spring, and we played hockey on the ponds. Right. It was awesome. But in Florida, everything's year round, and there's a lot of money now, so kids have to choose early. They're still playing 3 sports, I think, north of here. I know they're specializing earlier.
Yeah.
And there's clubs and it's all expensive, but they still get to play more than one sport. You don't have to commit as early, I think.
So I don't know how it is in high school here, but when I went my freshman year of high school, if you weren't signed up for an activity or a sport or activity in every semester, it was like you were blackballed almost. You were like,
really?
What are you doing? Like, why aren't you doing anything? You had to participate in something.
It didn't have to be the one thing.
No, it could be key club. It could be,
something.
Drama. It could be, anything, but it had to be something.
Right.
Whether it be, even like Latin, there was like Latin clubs. There was like Spanish clubs. There were all kinds of.
Just something.
Yeah.
Sports are way easier than Latin club, right? Yeah, sure, I'll play.
Definitely.
I was like, I'll play golf. My freshman year, I was like, they were like, no, there's a golf team. I was like, you mean I don't have to play football? I was never really big in football. So like I could play fall baseball, which fall baseball wasn't a thing at high school. So it wasn't considered an activity. It was like your hometown put together 2 or 3 teams. They played it on Saturday mornings, something like that.
Yeah.
But for, actual high school, they were like, you can play golf. And I was like, you go out, you play 9 holes, and you get to go to the driving range. And I was like, and they bus you. And I was like, it's free? I was like, I'm in.
Yeah. No, it sounds great. And you like to golf.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, do you still golf today?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Most Saturday mornings. Like today, we played this morning at 7
golf this morning.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But I think now, they just pressure parents that if your kid isn't doing these private trainings, if they aren't doing these if they aren't doing a travel team, then they're going to be behind everyone else. I think that's across the country. What's
happening too, though, is if say you play baseball and it's fine till you're about 9, then 10-ish for all sports, 10-ish down here, kids start to specialize. So you're playing rec baseball and you get some travel kids coming in and they just roll everybody.
Right.
Same with lacrosse. Football, I'm not sure. Football starts young. We're still a football state here. Mm-hmm. Even we're a soccer state.
Yeah.
So, but that 9-10 year, kids start to get
I just don't think there's that carefree vibe I don't think they have the freedom now.
No. They don't. You want to know what I think is even more like the exposure to weight training, lifting, And it's not even so much lifting at such a young age, but it's like now do the arm, like the band stuff, or go out there and do the laser, this like high card or intense heart rate stuff.
Yeah.
And it can be body weight, but you're still getting stronger. So you may not be, playing other sports, but you are being active to specialize in that one sport.
Yeah.
Or it's more driven, what do you, how are you going to get stronger to help baseball instead of playing soccer?
Yeah.
To get cardio, you're like, I'm in the gym or I'm doing this.
So do you think playing multiple sports and having multiple experiences actually helped your baseball college career?
Yes. Yes, to the extent that it opened up my eyes and adapted with other kids' personalities, coming together as a team, that stuff. I could have probably focused in on like my actual strength training to like, that I was a left-handed pitcher. So the big thing when you go to a showcase or anything, they're like, we want to see you hit 90 miles an hour. Oh, I can never hit 90 miles an hour. I could hit maybe 84, 86, but to throw 90, that little specialized training maybe could have got me there.
Right.
You never know, obviously, but still always think the body works how the body works. And
and you didn't burn out.
No, I certainly did.
And you didn't burn out your body.
Nope.
So did you play all 4 years?
Yep.
And that's impressive too.
Yeah.
Were you on scholarship?
So technically in Division III, they don't give you an athletic scholarship, but I got a academic scholarship that I probably would have never gotten had it not been for baseball.
Right. And what did you major in?
Actually, so I taught. Was going to be a teacher, a phys ed teacher, pretty much. So I taught I got a Bachelor of Science.
Okay.
With it's like a minor focus in kinesiology and stuff like that because it was just like learn how the body works. And like that. But and I spent the first 7 years teaching actually at my alma mater and coaching baseball there.
The high school?
Cool.
Yep. Yeah, I went back and
how cool.
So when I was finishing up at college, one of the ladies got pregnant, and I knew from my town, I knew the other guy that I did my observations with and everything like that for phys ed. And he's like, I need a substitute, but I need a long-term substitute. He's like, you can do your internship pretty much, or your apprentice, like lesson plans and all that, and you can get paid for it. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. He's like, fill out this. He's like, I'll just observe and do this as your observation. And I was like, sweet.
Is that like your 5th year almost?
Yeah, I did it my senior year.
Okay.
I actually got kind of permission through the school and set up my classes around that. Was it like, I think it was like 12 weeks that she was out. And so I had a class at 8 in the morning. Went there, did class, and then I left and went to the middle school actually in Westbrook, which was like a 25-minute drive. Did my taught from there until about 2 p.m. and then left back and went to practice.
So did you do that for about 7 years?
I did it. No, I did it.
Okay.
Well, that was just for 12 weeks for my
right.
senior semester. I guess it was the last 12 weeks of college.
Okay.
Because classes were winding down, I really didn't have anything that I was pressing. Everything was pretty much buttoned up as far as graduation. I had 2 classes that I had to make sure I passed, I guess. And then I was like, I'm getting paid. I'm making a little bit of money. It was nice. It was.
And then once that 12 weeks was done, you accepted a full-time position?
Yeah. And I didn't get a PE job. Actually, they were like, we have an opening in our special needs. I was an ed tech. So I went into a functional life skills room, worked with nonverbal autistic kids.
Wow.
And there was like 6 or 8 kids in the class. And that was really how I got my foot in the door. And they had a coaching job. The assistant baseball job was open. So I got the assistant coach for baseball, and I got to work in the school. So it was like a double whammy for me.
That's cool.
How old were the kids?
High school. So
Okay, so high school age.
Yeah, high school, and some of them aged out, so some of them are older. Like I had a couple kids that were in the classroom until they were 20, and they
Okay.
just aged out. And then the one kid I actually got very close with, his family. I did in-home care after school. He had some, just behavioral issues and things like that with riding on the bus for a long time. So the school district actually set up an opportunity where I would go to the bus yard. I would pick up a school van, go to his house, pick him up in the school van, bring him to school. Then after the school, I would drive him home and bring the van back. But
wow.
It worked out awesome for me because I was getting paid like extra money. They like gave me a stipend on top of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'll do this.
Plus,
Yeah.
you're like a saint on earth.
Exactly.
Really.
Well, and did it help him?
Yeah,
too?
That's what I mean.
It actually helped everything. It helped me with a lot of things as I kind of got into a professional career wise, and just not taking so many things for granted. I guess it really put a lot of things in perspective for me.
Yeah.
Seeing that side of it.
Did you get any special training in college for special needs children or special education?
Nope. I did do I was gonna take the ed tech job. They did 6-week training of like holds, like different type of holds and stuff. If they kind of like, I guess more or less freak out or have have an episode and
like how to safely restrain them and stuff.
Restraining.
Yeah.
And that was, I was like, whoa, what am I getting myself into?
Yeah.
Kind of. And but it was fun, like you said. And the family that I did get to know of the kid, after I ended up doing in-home care, bringing him to the facility after he graduated the high school. And when I would go to him at night, as you know, we play men's league slow pitch softball. So I played that up north as well. So I would do in-home, I would go to school, go to practice. Then I would go pick him up at like 6:37 p.m. at night, take him out, whether it was go swimming and just have like one-on-one time. Like I was kind of just like a big brother, a friend for the family. And I got to a point where he would come out to our softball games and be our bat boy.
Wow.
And he was he loved to sift. So a lot of times he would sift sand, just sit in like the batter's box, sift sand, then run out and grab the bat and come back in. And it was really cool to give all of the guys a high five.
Yeah.
And I just kind of made him I kind of intertwined him with
integrated him.
with our whole, like, that's my whole men's league slow pitch softball.
Talk about progress though.
Yeah.
I mean, for him and his family had to have been thrilled.
Yeah. He's actually a triplet too.
Oh, wow.
It was and the brother had his I would say disabilities in the sense that completely high functioning, normal, went to college, has a good career. I think he's in insurance now, selling insurance, but very smart kid.
Right.
Daughter was is in the nursing field. She's gone and gotten her master's. I mean, she's kind of killing it. They come from a very, very good family.
Are you must still be in touch with them to some degree?
When I go home, I've seen them in crossing, and the dad always comes up and gives me a hug. We always kind of exchange, pleasantries and everything like that. It's always a good thing. Moving to Florida, I had a little bit of a falling out in the sense that I tried to ease everybody into it, right? I kind of knew I wanted to go to Florida, but I wasn't sure how I was going to get there, when I was going to do it. So one of my best friends needed a job at the time. So then I had a pretty serious girlfriend at the time, and I wanted a little bit more time with her, and I was working 6-7 nights a week, going over there every night. And I was like, I need a break.
Yeah, huge commitment, actually, just listening to your schedule. Yeah.
So I got my buddy to come in and help out, and I started passing off shifts to him. And I was like, listen, this is a job. And he ended up, when I moved to Florida, he ended up taking full control over it. It was pretty much Monday through Friday, and then, 6-hour shifts on Saturdays and Sundays.
That's wonderful. You were able to find someone for them that's vetted, that they can trust.
What was the friction point though?
Me wanting to take more and more time off. Like, so, and they, listen, if I hadn't, they wouldn't have probably become so familiar and, you know, trusting of the other, of my friend to do as much care. But I was like, listen, I just need something. And the father actually wanted to make like a home, do like a group home type thing where he would have, I mean, they were very well off. The you know, and you know, it was very, you know, blessing in itself, right? But he had the money to almost build a unit for any child that had aged out, needed like that assisted living type, and he wanted me or somebody to live in like a bottom apartment and just kind of supervise the house almost.
Right.
And it never materialized. Had I stayed, maybe it would have, but it was definitely a cool opportunity, and I'll always look back like I'm very thankful for it. But the hard time really came as me starting to weed out and try to get away from it or not do it so much.
Get some balance.
Yeah.
And I think that
Worked out, too.
makes
I mean,
perfect
like
sense.
said
Yeah, it
earlier.
absolutely worked out. I find that because our kid, you know, Nathan, and then our daughter Kaya, and now Dylan, they also you worked, but they volunteer off and on with special needs kids, and they always say this, and I told them this would happen, is you actually are getting more out of this than them.
Yep.
And what you get out of this, you're going to carry with you the rest of your life, and it will actually transform you as a person. And you're blessed to have this opportunity.
100.
And there's no question.
Not at all. The patience I have, the just seeing like little things. I mean, I use it for an example. Just the other day, I'm in the gas station, and this guy is giving the cashier just like a hard time for like no reason. And I'm like 2 people back, and I can hear like just the conversation, and I'm just like, what's the point of giving him the girl such a hard time? Like, what if she's having a bad day? And can't communicate that? I mean, and it was over something stupid. It was like just like them setting up the wrong pump and not scanning something right. And I'm like, you know, there's so many different variables in life that mess things up. It's not just their fault.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It can be user error.
Yes.
It very well can be.
You don't need to be a dick about it, though.
Right, exactly.
You know? Yeah. You don't know what someone's going through. And I think especially when you go through a situation like what you went through, it just builds empathy inside of you that becomes a natural go-to. So, and you automatically start thinking about, well, where's the other person coming from? So
it costs nothing to be kind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how long did you work in the special education area?
So for five out of the 7 years, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah. And then after, so like you said, more rewarding, to piggyback on that, right? If it wasn't for, I guess, financial stress or strain, right, I would still teach and work with coaching and all that. It was much more rewarding, and I got more out of it than, say, let's go in and, for lack of a better term, a 9 to 5 where I'm selling things and everything like that. And I love what I do. Don't get me wrong. I love talking with people, and but I guess growing up in that town, going to that high school, then teaching at the high school, building those kind of, relationships, and then being kind of almost like a role model to some of these people, and watching them grow and be successful is much more rewarding than, I hate to say it, than saying, oh yeah, I took your business from making 3 million to 5 million,
right,
because we helped you, collect some debt, or,
right.
Hate to say it like that.
So did you leave your hometown after the 5 years of teaching?
Yep. I had a pretty serious girlfriend. She was a flight attendant down in, she was based out of Fort Lauderdale, so she was living in Sunny Isles.
Okay.
And it was kind of like shit or get off the pot in some ways. So I was like, screw it. I was like, I'm from a small mill town. I don't work at the mill. I don't have a trade. Teaching is great. I love it. But do I want to work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day of my life? No. So I was like, let's take it.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, you can always come back.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Maine's not going anywhere.
Right.
You know, and I was like, he makes a good point. And I watched a couple of my other friends who I went to college with. One moved to Austin, Texas, you know, and it kind of bounced around. A couple people went out west. And it's like, it's maybe hard to get used to or hard to restart, but no one was like mad they left.
Right.
And it was like, I hated it. You know, so I was like, screw it. I have an opportunity. I left. So I lived in Sunny Isles, and I got a job with Comcast doing door-to-door sales.
Oh, okay.
Selling cable TV. And
how was that?
Hard.
I would imagine so.
Being a 6'3" bigger guy, knocking on some people's doors. And listen, I was so we were based out of Boca. They were actually redoing the office, and I did all my training down in Fort Pierce, I think it is. And so it was like about an hour and 40-minute drive from Sunny Isles to Fort Pierce when I was doing my training. So that was like, that was when it kind of was going, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And then they put me in Boca, and I'm going door to door knocking, and I'm a big guy. So like, you get some stay-at-home moms, things like that, and I'm knocking, and they're like, "No, we're not opening the door." And I'm like,
"That's us."
I'm like, "What am I doing?"
Yeah.
Like, what am I
You're
doing?
like, no one down here opens their door.
Well, just so our listeners, we have a worldwide audience at this point, and in South Florida is known as the scam capital of our country, right?
Yeah.
So people are out scamming the retirees down here, so no one answers their door anymore.
Or you say not interested through the door, but you don't open your door. It's the weird. It's so strange.
Yeah. So that part was really hard for me, and then I got a neighborhood and crushed it. Like, I don't know what it was. Just that day, I went down like one street, and like 6 out of 8 houses were like, "Yeah,
wow,
we'll sign up.
Yeah,
we'll sign up."
That's great.
Like, you're gonna. I think I was just in like an AT&T area specifically.
Yep.
Comcast was finally in there. I was able to save some of these people like $50 to $80 a month, right, just on cable TV for signing up. Now they always get you on the year 2 or whatever, but anyway.
Yeah, that first year's
you're gone by then.
Yeah. But it was like, boom, they want it, and then all these like started happening, and I was like, wow. And that was like the first time I really got like I think I got like an $18,000 commission check, and I was like, wow,
that's good money.
I'm like, this is sales now.
Yeah.
This is what I was like, and that got me hungry. And then I started learning it a little bit. That was my first real sales job. And so this is now 10 years ago. I ended up buying a condo in Boynton Beach, which was like right off of Woolbright and Federal, and I loved it.
That's a good location.
It is. It's a great location.
It was like a mile and a half from the beach. I was like a $5 Uber ride to Atlantic Ave, and I was 28 years old, and I was like, "This is us." And I had a flight attendant, so we could fly kind of. I could use a buddy pass. Yep. We could go wherever we wanted from here.
You're living the life.
Yeah, it was. And then we lived together probably for about a year, and then once we split, I actually had taken the job with IDI, and I got one of the guys from IDI to move in with me. Okay. So now I'm like, this is great. Not only do I have a roommate, I'm getting a stipend on top for rental.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is even better. So we would go out to the Ave.
Yeah.
And it was just fun. It was
Are you near that golf course over there? There's a public golf course there, I think, right?
So there's Lakeview, which was right off of Linton. It was a small par 3.
I'm thinking of Lake Worth, I think.
Okay, so Lake Worth now that I'm west, after I sold the condo, I moved to Lake Worth up in Winston Trails. And I'm in Winston Trails now. And they have a public golf course. And the community, you don't have to buy in or buy a membership or anything, the equity. But it's a good track. And the neighborhood's great. It's gated. The school district's great. I'm a 6-year-old. That was really the underlying issue was find a house where it has a good school district and she can go to a public school.
Well, that leads us to.
I have a question though.
Okay.
I want to go back. I've got a couple things that.
Okay.
One is the baseball.
Yep.
Playing baseball in college. I'm curious, did you have to get a Tommy John surgery at all?
I did not. I do have a little bit of a partial tear in my labrum, but I pitched through it. Was able to do rehab and everything like that. That happened like my junior year, and I was like, they were like, "You want to do surgery?" And I was like, "No, I want to rehab," because my junior year was at that point where it's like, I'm not going to play professional. I'm not.
That was going to be my next question.
Not going to go make $1 million. Like, what's next? And I was like, do you really want to go and do 9 months of rehab and maybe pitch again or not pitch again? And I was like, I'll just finish it out. And if it tears, it tears.
So you got into college and it was like, this is it. I'm not trying out for the pros, going the minors and all that.
My freshman year, I think, when I got to pitch a lot, I had aspirations. I was like, what could happen?
Yeah.
And I did very well. And we went to regionals. We won a couple games at regionals. And then we had a kid who was there a year before us who pitched with us. His name was Charlie Furbush. He pitched at St. Joe's. Then he got a 10-day contract at the Cape Cod League.
Mm-hmm.
Pitched unbelievable. LSU made him an offer like immediately. I think he faced like 6 hitters and struck out 5 or something in Cape Cod in his first edition. And he went to LSU and then got drafted by the Mariners.
Okay.
And I was like, man, this could happen.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. And I was like, D3, this ain't ever gonna happen.
Yeah.
Then I saw that, I was like, man, maybe it will.
Yeah.
And so like my freshman, sophomore year, I did. Like I said, I did very well. My sophomore year, I ended up getting like MVP of the tournament for playoffs. We won our tournament. We went on to regionals, and we were like 2 games from going to the World Series.
Oh, wow.
And that was really cool. But when you got to that level, you realized how much of a difference it is to that next step, I guess, in the sense of really going professional.
Yeah.
What about? Oh, go ahead.
Well, you have one?
Well, what about your teammates? Did any of them go professional or try to pursue that?
Not really. There was a couple kids that played like independent baseball, which is like minor leagues. I hate to downplay it, but you're getting like a bagged lunch and you're getting to ride around on a bus and listen. If you're chasing a dream, that's what you have your heart set on.
Yeah.
It's good. I did it a little bit, not to that extent, but I just wasn't the bag lunch, drive around on a bus and hope to get $15-20.
Right.
You know, so, I was
actually
make some
this
money.
Is a general question. If somebody's going to play sports in college, do you feel that they need to be pretty much obsessed with that sport? I mean, is that your entire life?
Yes.
And that's what you do. You practice every day, you live with your teammates basically, and you live and breathe whatever sport that is.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Yeah, you can't do it half-assed.
Right.
And so you can't be in the frat, you can't do all those things and play.
You can if you can prioritize it.
Okay.
I mean, listen, I had some of my friends that were nursing majors, guys, and they would literally go to baseball and then they would study for literally 8-10 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what they wanted to do. They knew they had a goal. So, I mean, I'm very easily distracted. I can get swayed pretty easily in a lot of ways. But I knew I wanted to play baseball, and I knew that playing baseball meant me going to class. It had that kind of responsibility that I had to stay on my shit, in a little ways.
Did it affect your social life? Meaning, did you not have as much of a social life because you were playing baseball in college?
I probably had more of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
No, because listen, I mean, during the week, it might have, curbed it in the sense, but I still had a lot of the guys we would play. We were in a suite, so we had 8 or 7 other roommates. So we play video games, go to the gym together, do like just everything, like you said, bought in, and we were all together. So my social life, maybe outside of baseball, maybe lacked in some ways, but I was social anyway. Yeah. So I was going to get along with whoever, wherever, whenever,
right?
No matter what.
And was it practice every day?
Oh yeah.
In the morning before classes?
Yeah, we would. we would get up at 5 and go. They had this stuff called like black dirt, pretty much, and it would snow on the field, and we would have to get up at 5 and shovel the field and throw this black ice or black salt and stuff over the field so it would like try to melt faster.
So there was no excuse.
No excuse.
You were practicing every morning.
Yeah, and you might be hungover. It happens, but you have to be obsessed with it.
You have to love that sport. It can't be, and you can't be doing it because your parents want you to do it, or it has to 100% come from that.
That's the separation too. You can't be pushed by your parents. Like at high school, easy when you come home to mom and dad, and you can be like, go out in the garage and I'm going to watch you do this. I mean, there's nobody really watching you there at college. They can call you and tell you to get on it, but if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. I mean, we used to get out of things if we didn't really want to be there, but there was a time, I mean, we had pretty much like 3-4 hours blocked off almost daily of that you had to be with the baseball team.
3 to 4 hours a day.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's your world.
And it was. And totally. I ate it up. I loved it. But like I said, it was because I knew I needed that to stay on top of my schoolwork and my academics.
How hard was it when you graduated to transition? You'd been playing since middle school, and then now you're an adult, quote unquote, and living a more adult life. Was it a hard transition to not have baseball be in your life like that?
I still do it.
So like that's where the softball came in. Okay.
I play men's league softball Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays.
Are you in multiple leagues besides? Oh, you are. Okay.
So I play.
So you kept it in your life.
Yeah. I mean, like, and even after I graduated college, like I went right into coaching. So like that summer baseball, we coached American Legion or Babe Ruth, right? The all-star teams. Then I got into it. Like I coached golf as well at the high school level. So it was always around something competitive to keep me going.
It stayed in your life.
Yeah.
So who's your team?
Red Sox.
We're gonna end right now.
Yeah.
I knew there was something wrong here.
We'll just move on from that.
Yeah, me and Nate go back and forth.
We are a Yankee family.
For those who listeners, Andrew's a baller. We've seen him play softball. He rocks the ball. He catches crazy shit he throws thrown to him at first. So
how come you're not pitching there?
So I would, but I just tend not to because I don't know. I always played first base.
Well, they need you on first base.
100%. Yeah.
So my thing too is so up north you don't get a net when you pitch. So like pitching was fun because you can actually kind of play defense a little bit if the ball comes back. The net for me is like I want to field the ball. It gets it back to me. I want to make the play.
It's like batting practice net.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. I interrupted you. You had another question.
It's in line with what you just asked, and I'm curious so you went back to your hometown.
Yep.
And you mentioned you were kind of a role model. How much did you embrace that? Like you probably were, being that you went to college to play baseball, you were an athlete, you're in a small town, probably a big fish in the small town, right? Everybody probably knew you, right? So going back, you kind of took on a noble cause and profession. What were the dynamics there? I find that fascinating.
I loved it. And I embraced it in the sense that I wanted to really give back to the community. That was like when I came back and taught at my alma mater, like I then envisioned like I'm going to be the head coach of this baseball team. Like I'm going to try to take this to the next level. Like I had a lot of good coaches growing up that gave me a lot of support that I needed. And I knew kids at that high school level needed somebody that they can, whether it be just to count on and trust. I'm a pretty open book I don't hide much, and wear my emotions on my sleeve. So what you get is what you get. And I always felt like the kids, took that.
They respond to that.
Yeah, pretty positive.
You.
Exactly.
They trusted you.
And I built a pretty good rapport with a lot of families too that knew me as when I was growing up there. They either had me and then they had kids and I got to coach some of them, or they had brothers and sisters, right, that came through. And it was just really cool. And my senior year of high school, actually, we lost. We had like 14 seniors. There was like a tight knit group, like that all the way up. And we were a baseball team, or just a town, and we lost in state championship. And it was like just kind of cool to go through the whole row with these 14 seniors from Little League, go to a state championship. It sucked. It hurt for a long time. It probably still does to a lot of us, even when we get back, losing state. But going back as a coach, I got to win a state title for the high school and my alma mater. So it was like,
that was nice.
Yeah, that was cool.
Nice,
it was cool. Yeah, it was cool to get over.
Yeah.
And then I ended up actually not getting the head coaching job of the alma mater. And after we won state championship, I ended up jumping ship to another town and coaching them there.
Did you beat them?
Okay. We did.
Yeah, good.
So it was fun.
Yeah.
But it was tough for a little while going back, and it always made it a little bit more competitive when I went back.
Yeah.
So when you were in high school, I assume that you were in the paper and all that type of stuff, and people knew you where you went. And when you're playing, I assume there was more pressure put on you. The more notoriety you received, the more pressure you might have felt. Would you say that's an accurate statement?
Yeah. Yes and no. I come from a small town, so like, yeah, you go to like some of the local spots, and a lot of us were very tight knit in the community. So like, it was like bragging rights, I guess, in the sense that, we would poke fun of each other for it. Pressure, I never really looked at it as pressure. I just looked at it as like, this is like kind of what we were supposed to do. Like we were kids growing up. It's like the couple grades right below us ended up going to like the Little League World Series the same year that we went to the state championship.
Oh, cool. Wow.
And so it was just always like, just kind of following suit up.
It is a baseball town.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So it was very, just follow suit. Yeah. It's just like, that's what you do.
It didn't take the fun out of it for you.
No, I love it. No, we ate it up.
You thrived on it.
Yeah. I mean, we would all ride bikes, like come from across town and all meet at the Little League fields and play like pickup baseball with like a tennis ball and a bat if we didn't have, baseballs.
Yeah.
And like, even in the wintertime or summertime, it was, how do we get to the rink or the cemetery and play hockey?
Yeah. Then
they built a roller hockey arena where we could all rollerblade or skateboard, whatever it was, and go meet there.
Yeah.
And it was like, there was always 6 or 8 of us like just rolling around town together.
That's cool.
It was very organic.
Right.
The way it all
so like
came together.
And now I always say, like, my daughter, like my 6-year-old daughter, I'm like, she's like, can you call or text and like so-and-so's parents and see if Sophia can come out? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like, you can go down there, ride your scooter down there, knock on her door and see.
Yeah.
Like, I want her to have that interaction. Like,
it's different now.
It's so different.
It's very different.
I don't even let her out. Like, some of the other parents in the neighborhood too are like, oh, they can go out, and I'm like, I'll be outside with them, watching around.
No, it's very, very different.
And I look back, I'm like, I was riding around.
Oh, yes.
Call 1-800-COLLECT, like on the payphone.
Yes.
Totally.
You have a call from Andrew. Do you accept? My mom would be like, no, get home. Like, I'm not taking your phone because you're supposed to be home.
We used to do that. That's funny you say it. You came the collect call system.
Yeah.
It'd be like collect call from, I'll be home in 10 minutes.
Yeah, totally.
No, but I think millennials had some of the Gen X childhood.
They did.
Like, I think you guys got the last of it.
Yeah. No.
You know, the 90s for you were your childhood, right?
Yeah.
Where for us, we were in our 20s.
Yeah.
But that's their childhood.
Yeah.
It's the 90s.
I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. I grew up in a small town, played 3 sports, was pretty well known, pretty good sports, but I took a different route in that I didn't like it as much. I kind of prefer to be lower key.
Yeah.
And not
so he didn't necessarily thrive, but he quit basketball his senior year because of the pressure. He just
pressure, just wasn't fun. Lost the fun.
That hit me after, when it was my professional career, when I got into teaching and I realized how political
Yeah.
it was. I think I was just so naive growing up, and I embraced everything that was going on. I have all my friends. I'm playing sports.
Yeah.
It's like we're going to high school, we're going to college. Like,
Yeah.
what's next?
Yeah.
And then when I got to like my career, I was like, wait a minute, everybody's like watching me, telling me, talking about what I'm doing now at like the local
Yeah.
watering hole, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I got that at a young age and I didn't like it.
yeah.
And to this day, I won't be critical of other kids. I don't even pick on college kids too much, to be honest with you. You know, if someone's like, oh, so-and-so sucks, he should have made that 3. I'm pretty sympathetic. In the pros, the rules are slightly different, but
Yeah.
college down, they're kids. I don't really pick on them a whole lot,
No,
you know?
Yeah. That's from I think that comes from what you went through.
100%. Yeah.
yeah, it is a real thing. I mean,
Yeah.
to be sympathetic, and not listen, kids make mistakes. It's all about having second chances. I mean, well, for lack of a better term, right? I'm in my teaching career. I go out for a basketball game. We're all having drinks. A bunch of teachers. I drive home. I get pulled over. I'm next thing you know, I'm on the local American Journal, like coach, teacher, got a DUI. And I mean, listen, it got dropped down to driving to endanger and whatnot, but it was still like, I show up at the, superintendent's office, and I was like, listen, this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
It was what it was. I was out. I was like, where do we go from here? And I ended up doing some like volunteer stuff and whatever, but it was I was like, wow, this is small town living now, because everybody wants to talk about how you do this, how'd you do that.
I want to take you down.
Yeah. And listen, it didn't tear me down. No, I got pretty tough skin. It changed the way I viewed things, I think, in the big picture. I was like, wow, like, still a human, like
totally.
I mean,
so it sounds like when you were growing up, like you said, not naive, but you weren't aware maybe of a lot of the stuff going on. And then when you became an adult in your town, you started, the veil was lifted.
So it was the it's not Andrew Kierstead, like the little league, playing with all his friends, calling a mistake. This is like, you gotta own it now.
Yeah. So did that actually kind of help with the decision to go to Florida too?
Yes, for sure.
Kind of like a fresh start.
It was get away from everything. Right. They still go to like, we have this small place called Profenos. It's a local watering hole. A lot of my friends that are still there are still going there, getting pizza. And listen, I'm to each his own.
Yeah.
The pizza's great. The food's good. But it's just, I think I wanted, something different, and I needed it,
and a change.
Change is good.
So now you're in Boynton. You have your roommate.
No. So now I'm I
mean, that's where we left off. You're in Boynton. You have your roommate.
Yep.
You're still living your 20s life, late 20s life, going to the Ave.
Going to the Ave, tearing it up.
Working for, why did you pursue IDI?
So
where you are now?
Yep. So I went to Comcast. I was doing sales at Comcast. And then I actually sold cable TV to a guy right over here who had a data company. He kept giving me the ring around. He was like, listen, the wife was like, you got to talk to my husband. You got to talk to my husband. I was like,
you're good. You convinced us to do this. You got to talk.
But you got to get final approval from the husband. So I'm like, okay. So I kept coming back. Oh, he's not here. He was a fisherman. He was very busy, had his own company, everything like that. 2 sons. And I'm like, well, when can I get a hold of him? And she's like, come over for dinner.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, wait a minute, come over for dinner? So I might call my boss. I'm like, listen, I'm going home now. I'm going to shower. I'm going back. I have a sale. It's done, but I have to go back for dinner.
Yeah, to close it.
And he's like, wait a minute. He's like, this stay-at-home mom is inviting you over for dinner with her husband. I'm like, yeah. It's like, he's like, you don't see anything wrong? I'm like, no. I'm like, I've gone to this house like 5-6 times over the last like 3 weeks. it's a sale. It's done. I just have, he's like, all right. He's like, well, call me if you need anything. I'll have my phone. Like,
did he track you?
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, wait a minute. And even then, like, now to this day, now looking back, I'm like, man, I probably was out of line. Like, maybe I should have just been like, what time can I come back?
Right.
But yes, I get there. I have a seat at the dinner table, and I'm like, man, this is awkward. Now he's like, now what are you selling me, pretty much? And I'm like, oh shit, God. Here we go. And I'm like, here are the numbers. So he ends up signing up, and he's like, listen, he's like, you're a good salesman. He's like, you came back, you keep coming back. He's like, my wife said you were very respectful, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I need salespeople at my job. And I'm like, first question, how much money am I going to make? Like, I'm open to it, but how much money can I make? So he's like, we have this new product. It's going to be in like law enforcement, all this. And I was like, all right, law enforcement, hopefully I'll be making it, helping people out. I'm fairly can follow suit pretty well.
Yeah.
And I was like, talk to him more. And it was selling like personal information and verified services, or, a lot of, they were like trying to track for theft, like online theft and all this, a lot of Rolexes, scam stuff, because it was getting so big down here in South Florida. And so I took the job, and probably 6 to 8 weeks into it, he's like, it's not going to take off. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah. I'm like, it just made me quit this job.
Yeah.
I'm 8 weeks in, and now we're just throwing in the towel. He's like, yeah, but here's the deal. I'm going to give you 12 weeks severance. He's like, and I'm like, well,
wow,
12 weeks severance. I'm like, that's not that long. He's like, no, but I was like, but I'll be able to pay my bills. And I was like, 12 weeks, I should be able to find a job. And so like, I really contemplated, do I go back to Maine? I was single at the time. I was living by myself then, because this is prior to IDI. So before I even have a roommate or anything. And I'm like, oh shit, like I'm going to sell my condo and move back. And I was like, I got 12 weeks. I'm just going to play some golf, and I'm going to rip up the Ave and see what happens. And then the secretary, actually, I went in, I used their computers to update my resume and everything like that, because I wanted to, he was paying me severance, and I wanted to go in there and at least make it look like I was trying to find something else and put the right foot forward. So the secretary comes over and she goes, listen, I know some people over at this startup that are selling data like us, but it's not exactly. She's like, you'll love it. These people are great. I'm like, all right, I'll go interview. So I took the interview, and I met buddy Mike Shad, who is still there at IDI and everything like that. And the interview went really well. It was very home-like, and I was like, screw it, I'm going to stay. I called my mom. I left the interview, and I was like, I'm going to stay. But I'm giving her the background, and I don't know if you guys have looked, but there was a stockholder, major stockholder in our company, who had some, bad run-ins and some negative publicity with the SEC and all this. So I get out of the interview, and I call my parents, who are accountants, and I'm like, yeah, this publicly traded company, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, went great. My mom calls me back like 4 hours later, and she's like, Andrew, there's like, this is like a pump and dump or anything. I'm like, no, I didn't get that feeling. She's like, Andrew, she's like, how did it really go? I'm like, they said they were going to give me X amount of dollars. The comp plan's good. The numbers look good. I'm like, I can stay down here in South Florida. I'm living. And she's like, just be careful. And I was like, okay. And like I said, here I am 10 years later, 8 years later, been there 9 years now.
So it was all on the level.
It all got wiped under the rug. I think he is still a major shareholder, one of our bigger shareholders, but he's not on our board or anything like that anymore. I think he's out. But
so you do sales.
Yep.
Is that what you do there? Okay. And so you accepted that job. You got the roommate. You're living in Boynton.
Yep.
And working at IDI.
Yep.
And was there any other big life changes that happened shortly after that?
Yes, I had a roommate that was, like I said, I had moved him in, and he had been in there roughly 2 years or so.
Okay.
And once I had everything kind of changed
Of course.
in that sense. And
You
now,
can't explain that to someone
nope.
until they become a
Yeah,
parent.
it's the best feeling. She's she's definitely my little princess.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's a club that no one understands until you're part of it. And I
Yep.
always tell people it's an emotion that you don't have until you become a parent.
Yeah.
Like you think you know love, but you don't
Nope.
until you become a parent. And it's like it's a whole new ball game. So it's life changing.
It certainly is. And growing up from a sports background, playing sports all that, my other one of my best friends, he's got 4 boys now. But they were always like, when I told them, they're like, you hope it's a boy, don't you? And I'm like, honestly, at that point, I'm like, I just wanted to be healthy.
Yeah.
Well,
with your special education background, you understand the importance of that.
So, and everybody, and so I, coming from that world, remember having the conversation with him, like, if we're going forward, but I'm just going to let you know I'm all in. Like, whatever happens, good, bad, and different, like, I'm all in. Like, I already know, like, I kind of explained, like, I've already seen it from the other side. So I just want you to know, as reassurance, like, you don't have anything to worry about.
Right.
Like, I'm going to get, regardless of what it is, we're going to get through it.
Right.
I guess having that other part of my life earlier in my life, knowing that green, orange, yellow, doesn't matter, 10 toes, 4 toes, you can still have a happy life.
Yeah.
Like, that's life is still
precious,
right? And we take a lot of things in everyday life for granted.
Yep.
Like being with somebody who is non-verbal, autistic, needed help with the shower, changing, everything like that. Like, just as easy as, let's say wiping your own ass, right? Like, you don't understand just being able to get up and walk to the fridge, or to say I'm hurt, or I'm tired, it's a blessing in itself.
Yes, 100%, 100%. So your perspective on becoming a father was already just heightened than maybe a normal guy your age, and you understood what you were getting into no matter what happened. So she's born and they hand her to you.
Yep. And I still remember it like clear as day when she opened the little gooey blue eyes, and I was like, here, like, this is real. Like, that was like you said, you realize what love is.
Did you cry?
Yeah, cried.
So did Brian.
Yeah.
and like I said, healthy and happy was all I cared about. And then I remember, so
then, but then you have this beautiful little girl.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's amazing.
It the absolute best thing ever.
How big was she? Do you remember her weight?
I think she was 8 pounds.
She's a big girl, especially for 37 weeks. Yeah, that's a big girl.
And then she dipped down, like they say, like the first week. And I think she got down to like 7, or like just under 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, everything was perfect for a while. We were doing. She was at home and I was working. I would come home. She would pretty much have dinner ready, and I would come home, do feeding, like the tub in the sink or whatever, and she would go lay down. And so from like 7 or 8 p.m. to like 1, I would just do night shift and let her get a few hours of sleep, and I became very good at video games. That was I would put Katie in the bassinet, 2-hour feedings, and play video games in between. And that was
that's great that you did that, though.
Yeah, it was,
that you gave her that break.
That was,
not all guys do that. Props to you, honestly.
I appreciate that. I was definitely all in. That was a big thing for me, for sure.
Yeah, but to recognize that that the mother of your child needed that break,
Right.
and to come through. And I've heard that a lot of millennial guys are more aware of that stuff than the older generation. So I don't know if that's true, but you're an example of that.
Yeah, no,
I
like I said, I loved it. I embraced it, and I like even to this day, like she wants to paint my toenails. I'll
Yeah.
sit there and prop up. I mean, we've gone to get our mani pedis
That's
for a
awesome.
while, so that's
cool.
That's awesome. You're a good girl dad.
yeah, that is my girl. That's for sure. Now we split. We going to bed reading. Being there in the morning was me pretty much a lot of the times. Now, when she moved out, she moved into a condo, and there were certain nights that she'd be like, Daddy, I want you to read to me. And we were always in a very good relationship in the sense that I would drive over there, I would read to her, she would go to bed, and I would leave.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, and we were, like I said, we were always close enough, like a 5-10 minute drive. So very easy to do, even though I probably would have done it had it been a 30-minute drive.
Yeah, of course.
That's just the agreement that we have in place. Ultimately, just says whoever lives in the better school district would be the house, kind of.
Interesting.
It tends, and that's just always been my thing. I mean, listen, school first, obviously, in the sense that even as a former athlete, right, I was always told by all my coaches, it's your student athlete, student first, athlete second.
Yeah.
It just, you need that foundation and everything like that. And she's very confident. She's got a big personality for a young girl. So
is she first grade?
Kindergarten.
Yep. So okay.
Yep.
So you have kindergarten graduation this year.
Oh yeah,
that's your first graduation, right?
So we graduated
preschool.
Yeah, she graduated from preschool, VPK.
Yes.
The biggest blessing that I think for school-wise Kennedy was after VPK, instead of sending her to summer school there and finishing out VPK, we did the early graduation, and we sent her to the summer camp, which is where she goes to school. So she, prior to going to school in kindergarten, she got to have summer camp at the middle school or at the elementary school. So it was like, and she is like that. She gets very comfortable and then starts really opening up. She needs to get that comfortable ground. So that part of her going to summer camp at the elementary school before she had to go to kindergarten and be in the classroom setting, I think was very
huge.
Yeah, huge. Got to know some of the kids in the
friends.
area.
Right. Yeah. Is she playing sports yet?
No, she does dance.
Oh, that's a whole world.
Oh, yeah.
And expense.
Yep.
And there's competition and travel.
So we just had our first competition.
There you go.
Oh my gosh.
2 weeks ago, actually. And now we got one coming up this weekend.
That's awesome.
So now it starts
so
again.
you're getting a taste.
Oh, yeah.
Keep her out of that competition cheer.
That's like travel baseball.
Yeah. And listen, like I said, I'll support her wherever. I never wanted to be that dad that pushed her to sports. Now, do I want her to play sports? Of course. I've always kind of been that. Let's go to games. Let's do that. I probably take sports a little bit too serious. It becomes my life a little bit, in the sense that even when I'm not at work, ESPN's on the TV or there's a game on. But yeah, so whatever activity it was that she decided, I was going to support her, and I wasn't going to push her to say, you have to do this, you have to do that. Yeah. Now, if she wants to pick up the ball and do it, I'll play whatever you want.
Yeah.
But as someone, like you said, with the background that I had with the special needs, with teaching, with all that, if you don't have that drive to do it or self-motivation, you're not going to be really successful in it anyway. So you have to want it and want to do it. So I'll open the door for you. But if you don't want to walk in and like observe around or play it, then that's your choice.
It's interesting because there's probably two ways to go about it for parents who played sports in college. There's the parents that then want their kids to play that sport and get really hyper focused on that and serious and almost go way overboard with the trainings, with being on all the teams, whatever it takes, like spending the money. And then there's the parents like you who are like, look, I know really what it takes to do this. And I know what it takes to maintain it in college. And it has to come from inside the child. So I will open the door for you and you can have every opportunity to explore whatever sport, whatever activity you want. But I'm not going to be psychotic about it.
Right.
And I feel like there's two ways, because I know, there's people that did it in college and aren't taking the same route that you're taking.
There's actually a third route. And those are the parents that barely drop their kids off and pick them up and don't go to things.
Yeah. But I don't know if those parents played in college. I don't know. I don't know if they played sports.
That's your disclaimer.
That's my disclaimer is that these are the two paths. As if you played, you can either be like, I want you, they're vicariously living through them again.
Right.
Or, hey, whatever you decide.
And I watched that, losing a state championship and just seeing, listen, not my friends directly, but the kids in other communities, the dad screaming like, oh, why isn't he playing? Or, Johnny struck out in the biggest situation. He shouldn't be in that spot. It's like, dude, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
And
Bill Buckner.
Right.
As a Yankee fan, I'm actually
86 too.
I'm sympathetic to Buckner as a Yankee fan. Right?
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
And I always said too, like as okay, growing up, right, you have that parent that goes all ape crazy and living vicariously through you. It doesn't help the child really grow and be his own person either. Like, you're now just creating yourself again. And I always wanted her to have her own personality, her own things. She likes to swim. And when my mom used to come down, just in the winter, that was like their thing. They would do swim lessons. And she would pick her up from daycare and do swim lessons once a week.
Yeah.
That's cool.
At the Y. And that was kind of like their grandma.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's key for kids in Florida to know how to swim.
100%.
It's just, you have to.
Yep.
It's so important. But then to have a love of swimming, and that's such a great sport.
Yep.
For the overall conditioning of the body, everything. Totally. And it stays with you.
Right.
I think there's a muscle memory to it. But it's hard in travel sports. We've been involved very heavily in Dylan's lacrosse, and we've caught ourselves being crazy because there's a vibe and energy.
Yep.
And it's almost like, okay, well, so we're supposed to all be like this. And and then him and I one day looked at each other like, what are we doing? This is stupid, and Dylan, thank God, because he was on a team that was very serious. And after that season, he said, this was 2 years ago, he said, I don't want to play D1. I don't even know if I want to play D2 or D3. If I play, maybe club. Yeah. And we were like, I'm so grateful you felt comfortable telling this to us, and you weren't nervous about telling us. And this is perfect because now we can reroute your lacrosse experience.
Right.
And you don't have to keep going for this one team that's so serious. And we were able to back off, help him back off, and he enjoys it again.
It doesn't have to be life.
Doesn't have to, if he's not obsessed with it.
Right. And
he enjoys it.
Your daughter's very lucky that you have that level of maturity to just facilitate whatever she wants and not necessarily drive her.
It's huge.
I want to get her to do gymnastics. Listen, and I joke around. So her PE teacher is Surtain. So Patrick Surtain's like uncle, and Patrick Surtain's the cornerback for the Broncos. And I'm always like, just get her playing. Like as a former PE teacher, like, I just don't want her to be the girl that's like on the sideline walking where, listen, it is what it is. You want to wear your pants and a long sleeve shirt and you do your hair and makeup, that's fine, but just participate.
Yeah.
I don't care if you don't like it, you don't want to do it, just participate, play the sports. She has a competitive drive, so I don't worry about that part too much.
Yeah.
But I just want her to be able to, like I said, participate in it, play with the boys. If she doesn't like it, she doesn't have to do it later, but
have those experiences.
Right.
It's part of
At
being
least do it in gym class.
Yeah.
You can be a gym class hero a little bit.
Gym was awesome when we were kids.
Well, we had, did you have dodgeball still?
Yeah.
100%.
So did you have like Red Rover where you'd clothesline kids?
Wait, what's that?
where you held, you said Red Rover, let Jimmy come over, and you would all hold hands and like clothesline them as they ran, like on their neck.
I don't remember that.
Really?
And if they didn't get them, the group didn't get them, they wouldn't join the squad. Then once you got them, they would lock in.
I don't remember that at all.
I didn't realize how many shared childhood experiences millennials and Gen X have, but they really, you guys, we thought we were the last ones to have that. Come home when the streetlights come on.
Yeah.
Go hang out with your friends. But I think you guys were.
Probably. Yeah,
I really do.
I remember my dad being like, if the streetlights are on, you better be home. And if you're not home, you don't have long. And if I have to scream, because I grew up on like a neighborhood, a hill, where he could scream and I could literally be, 3 streets down and hear him.
Yeah.
And be like, I better fucking go home.
Yeah. No, I think you guys had that childhood. Because again, you guys talk about the 90s and how great the 90s were. And that's how we talk about the 80s.
He's a kid of the 90s, really.
He is, where we were in our 20s. But I thought it ended with us, but I think it ended with you guys. I think you guys got that last bit before technology took over and changed everything.
So, was it? There was my senior year of high school. There was like the start of social media in the sense it was people taking pictures, but it was like with cameras and they were like loading it up to like Photo Bucket and like stuff like that. And like little, like, I don't think they were even apps really then. They were just like computer programs or websites where you could load pictures in. And I remember this because the winter, I was playing hockey. We all went to a party. It was right after our last hockey game. We'd lost in the playoffs. And basketball playoffs were getting ready to go. And we had a really good high school basketball team. Well, there was a huge party. We all go. It ended up being at one of the cheerleaders' houses, who I think was like the assistant basketball coach's daughter. And all these pictures get posted online. Well, the athletic director found them or whatever. Somebody said something. Now, these guys got suspended for the first round of the playoffs, and we ended up losing.
Wow.
And it was a big deal in our town. Like, people were...
It was party pics?
Yeah, like just pictures from a party.
Yeah.
And we were... You sign an athletic code.
Yeah, totally.
Of code of conduct. It got pushed. The right parents pushed it. Just got these kids suspended.
So that was like probably the first time that social media.
What year did you graduate then from high school?
Okay. 2005. And so I remember being called in. Now, hockey season was over. I had long hair during hockey. It kind of grew out on one things, and then I shaved it as once the season ended. It was kind of like playoffs were over, and I was kind of like, I got to get rid of it. We got to. So I get called into the athletic department, and there's pictures of me drinking and sitting around a table with like a bunch of friends, and we're partying. And I'm like, well, that's me. It's clearly my face. Yeah. I can't deny it. I was looking right at the camera, so like whatever. But I'm like, I had long hair then. Like, that's during hockey season. I shaved my head, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They were like, well, you sign an athletic code for the season. I ended up getting suspended for the opening day of my senior year of my baseball season.
Wow.
For our first home game. And it was against one of the biggest teams in our region. So it was really
a big deal,
a buzzkill for me. But we ended up losing. It was sitting in the sidelines and watching it. But having that experience though too was kind of like you got to follow, like you say, your student before you're an athlete.
It's true. And it probably also helped you realize what you put on the internet is forever.
Yep.
Think about what you put on the internet. But you guys were really that first group to even learn those lessons. Yeah. Because I'm sure none of you thought of that.
Didn't even think of it.
No, because did you have MySpace?
Yep.
You're the MySpace.
MySpace was the first. And when I tell you this, there were people that lost friends over people. Oh, you're not in my top 8 or my top 10, and people used to like get mad at one another and then like move.
What did that mean? Top 8 or top 10?
MySpace had like this thing where it was like your top 10 friends, like who you communicate or who you like the best, I guess.
Like who you interacted with the most on MySpace?
Yeah,
well, probably some favorites list, right? Where you could say Nicole's my favorite, and if I swapped you for Susie, now you would hate me.
Oh my gosh, the drama!
It was bad, and like some people would like get into it over it, and I'd be like, this is crazy to me.
Yeah, but that was the first though. That MySpace was you said the one thing was the bucket,
photo bucket.
Photo bucket.
We had like a instant messenger.
AIM.
So, AOL
instant messenger.
And I remember people putting up like your away messages like BRB,
Yes.
ICQ.
And I remember too, like my sister being in high school and having the dial up, and so it would be AOL.
Yeah.
You have mail. You've got mail.
Yeah.
And like I remember being the like asshole wise ass downstairs being like, Amy's on the computer talking in these chat rooms with like her friends, and I'd pick up the phone and hang it up, and she would lose internet connection because it would all go through the telephone line.
Oh my gosh.
When did you get broadband in Portland?
Oh, it was known as Roadrunner, I think.
Okay, Roadrunner, Roadrunner.net.
And that, I don't even know exactly. It probably had to be late 90s, probably.
Oh, so you did have it. Okay.
We did, but I just remember going on the internet with AOL.
Oh, me too.
And just picking up the phone.
But you were doing it as an adult. He's doing it as a kid.
We don't have to, we could gloss over that point.
So then Facebook would have been like, when you were in your 20s?
Yeah, it was, Facebook was like college.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's probably a big deal for you guys. That's probably like what Instagram and Snapchat is.
Right.
For the kids.
Yeah, I mean.
And TikTok.
So, I don't do TikTok or that.
Yeah.
But I have Facebook. I have all that stuff. Facebook was definitely the first real way to interact. I mean, I can remember getting to college and being like, oh, I don't know her, or I don't, it was a great way to start getting chicks involved with your friends and everything like that. It's like, well, what's she doing? Or we can kind of look at her profile. Hey, who's she hang out with? Well,
Intel.
Intel.
No, it gave you guys a leg up.
What dorm room is she in?
You know what's funny is, just to go back to you getting busted, that would be a generational difference. As Gen X, if we was as athletes, when we'd get busted, we'd get driven home.
Yep.
And I remember once we came back from college, went to a party up in Pennsylvania, driving home, got pulled over at like 2, 3 in the morning by the cops.
Yep.
The cop brought my buddy to the police station. They waited like 6 hours to do the breathalyzer. Meanwhile, the cops drove us home, and they're like,
because they're athletes.
It's a wonderful thing. We're all athletes. Everybody knew who we were, and that's Gen X.
And there was no proof.
There was no
it
proof.
Happened. There were no pictures like that anyone could touch. Yeah, if there were, they needed to be developed still.
But you are from that generation where they started to crack down that there's video, photo proof, and
I mean, I look back and think like we got to a point where I hate to admit this now for my mom and some of the other parents, right? Is like they would be like, "We'll buy you alcohol, but where are you going to be? Are you going to we'll buy you a little bit of. I want all the keys. You can play poker downstairs and everything like that." And I can remember sitting outside in my buddy's shed, playing poker with 6 dudes, drinking beers like Keystone Lights because we could get, a 30-pack for $13 or $14.
But they probably would rather have it controlled because you guys, because with all teenagers, they just want a place to be.
Right.
And that's the hardest part. With all
they
of this,
need a place to be too, so they're safe.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't want
tough.
people drinking and driving. Like, if they're gonna, I always say this, right? Even my mom, and I was very open with my parents for the most part because I was the one who we were out at a party. running through the woods, whatever, and everybody's like, dude, the cops are coming, and everybody scatters, and it's like, I'm calling my mom.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, no, you're not. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm calling my mom. Like, my mom will come pick me up right now, and I don't care. Like, I'm going home. I'll tell her the truth.
Yep.
I might get a little bit of backhand in some ways, but I'm going home and I'm going to be safe.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I remember a couple of my friends like, dude, you're not calling your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it depends. Like
I called my mom. Yep.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And that's a testament to the relationship she created with you.
Right.
Is that your parents gave you space to have open communication with them and trust them. And they really followed through on, hey, if you're in trouble, call us and we'll be there for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
They gave you that.
100%.
And a lot of parents don't understand, like, you've got to have open communication because this stuff is going to happen. So you're either going to be part of the narrative or not.
Right.
So you have to open your mind, you know, for the safety of your child.
I'm a firm believer in being just transparent and honest. Like, I even told my mom, listen, if I want to do it, I'm gonna do it. You know, I have a car. You know, I have a few dollars in my pocket. If I need to find a way to do something, most likely I can do it. So if I'm at least telling you, and it was what it was, and she was always, you know, listen, I'm not going to judge you. No, I'll pick you up. I mean, to this day, I mean, now I'm 38. I'm going to be 40 here soon. And my mom lives with me. And like last night I go out and my mom's like, yeah, you didn't come home till late.
Yeah.
How'd you know? And she's like, I still kind of like, you know,
you're still her babe. The way you feel about Katie is how she feels about you.
Right.
And I'm sure when you had, then you probably understood your parents more why they were the way they were, because they love you as much as you love your daughter.
Right.
And that's why parents are crazy sometimes, you know, because we're scared that we don't want anything to happen to our children.
Right.
So, but it kind of then creates a bridge between you and your parents. You're like, oh, okay, now I understand.
I get this.
Yeah, I get this now. I understand. So I didn't know your mom lives with you.
So yeah, when for probably the last 6 to 8 months, she has just with everything that's going on with my father and so forth, it's just been a lot easier. Right around Christmas time, or right before Christmas, my dad had a stroke. And that was he was in like the rehab center and things like that. So it just, my mom was like gonna take the RV and go back out to California where we would see my sister and so forth. And I was like, you know, that's a lot driving by yourself. You know, dad's not with you anymore, all that stuff. And it just, you know, it was just made sense. I mean, I'm 5 miles from where my dad is now. She's there for extra hands and, you know, eyes on Kay. She helps out a lot with her.
I'm sure.
Especially like dances early on Wednesdays. So a lot of times she picks her up from school. So I always joke around like, oh, I live with my mom now and all that. But like, I always say this now is like the relationship that I had with my grandparents, that I was able to be close with them. I never got to meet my dad's mom, everything like that. I never got to meet his father, any of that. The relationship she now has with my parents and with my mom now that she lives with us is just, you can't, it's irreplaceable.
Priceless.
It's priceless.
Yeah.
It's going to enrich her life so much, and it enriches their life.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
And it extends their life.
Right.
You know, my mom lives with us.
Okay.
And when you say help, it's a huge help.
Right.
It's those little things that they help, but also that relationship building. She's incredibly close to all 3 of the kids.
Yep.
And I know it has enriched her life in that she's using her brain still a lot. She's going and doing things. She's needed.
Right.
And that helps them. She has purpose, and it helps them because she's 77, but you wouldn't know it because she's still humming along, you know, because she's had to be active in this family.
How old is your mom?
My mom's 68. So
she's young.
And actually, so last year, she just did her first triathlon.
No way.
No way.
So it's it's like a slim down version.
Yeah,
I
they
think
call it a sprint. Yeah.
But it's for breast cancer. And what was even you know, she's a warrior. She, swim, bike, run. She didn't really run a lot here because she's like, it's so hot. But she would ride her bike, still goes to the YMCA, goes swimming. So she has a lot of drive. We got to go fly up last July 4th. Because the 4th of July is usually my 1 week that I like to spend up north. Lobster, grill outs.
It's all American.
It's cool.
Yeah, I
corn
can't
on
beat
the
it.
cob, pasta salad, lobsters, whatever you want, fried clams. And we got to go and watch my mom do the triathlon.
That's cool.
And so for the straightaway, there's like probably not even a half a mile. We got to run right next to her,
cool.
and like
amazing,
run alongside of her, like, come on, Grammy.
Yeah.
And it was really, really cool.
Amazing
to see and be a part of.
Listening to you though talk about your mom, and she's ready to get in the RV and drive to California.
That's impressive.
She's got to have a strong personality, right? What's her kind of background, or what's?
Yep. So she been kind of single mom at first with my sister, and then always had that kind of like hard working drive. They had a CPA firm for 30 plus years, right in our small town. And she's just been a worker bee.
I bet she's pretty sharp.
Yeah, diagnosed. She actually got colon cancer. She's been clean now 10 plus years.
Wow. She's a cancer survivor.
Yeah, cancer survivor. And even when I was at college and I look back and say, like, so thankful for the things that, they gave me and provided for me, is the business was doing fairly well, but it was at peaks and valleys of everything with all businesses, right? And she would go after she'd had really trouble sleeping, bad things. She just needed to stay busy. So she would do packing at LL Bean at nighttime.
That's right. They're a main company.
Yeah. And so they would pick up, people in peak time season, right? That would come in at night and work like, 3-4 hours just doing packing and like labeling and all that stuff. And she would go in and do that. She's like, and
wow.
And just to kind of like, provide help. It gave me, I guess a little bit extra freedom sometimes at college, right? Because I was playing sports and I was working at the pool, in what they call, just like kind of like almost like volunteer hours, but because I was a student athlete, I would, lifeguard at the pool or help out at the gym and supervise. And then, Mom, listen, I'm going out, can I borrow some money? College, I mean, it's like, where can you get even scrounge up $20? I mean, I can remember counting. We used to store bottles from parties and stuff, and in up north, you can return them for 5 cents a bottle.
Yeah. Oregon's like that.
So we would get trash bags and fill up like a truck.
Yeah.
And be like, all right, we got like $160 pool for this weekend.
Keystone.
Keystone. Here's a bottle of like Stoli or 5 o'clock vodka and 2 30 packs of Keystone.
That's amazing.
Hilarious.
That's amazing. So was she an athlete?
So she played sports early on, but nothing. She comes from a small island right there. She was born in Bar Harbor. Or not born in Bar Harbor. She was born in Keene, but then moved to Bar Harbor, which is small.
We've been there.
Yeah, Mount Desert Island and everything like that. So very small.
It's beautiful up there.
It is
absolutely gorgeous. Like we go, the 4th of July is usually when we go up there. I spend a couple of days with my friends in Portland, and then my sister usually takes my nieces, and they spend a month in an Airbnb up in Bar Harbor, and they just love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
What are winters like though? Is it like our friend was on from Buffalo and they get 4 or 5 feet of snow? Is Maine the same deal?
Brutal.
It is.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's I always say it's 7 months of miserable. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but like you leave work here, it's still 75 degrees out. It may be dark, but you can still be active. You leave work up north, and it's like 4:30. It's dark, and it's 22 degrees, and you've got a 1.5 feet of snow. And you're like, I want to be home. And listen, say this sarcastically in some ways, but like, there's nothing more to do than to drink.
Yeah.
There's a big opiate, pandemic.
It got hit hard, right? Yeah.
Up north, I mean, the heroin and the Suboxone, the all the oxys, and then, don't get me wrong, I know it took its course down here, and you have a lot of like the drug rehab. When I moved to Boynton, they call it the drug rehab capital of the world, but like up there, it's almost like intensified because there's so much downtime and inside time that it almost gets blown up, and people just there's no opportunity. That's kind of, I hate to say it like that, but I just felt like there was a lot more opportunity once I left Maine. Like
it makes sense.
It was, there's more to life than Maine, and I'll never forget when my father told me that when I was like thinking about moving down. He's like, you can always come back.
Yeah,
it's not going anywhere.
I think when we drove through Maine in probably 1993.
Yep.
And I remember it being cool, but it's the Rust Belt area. And I remember like abandoned buildings and stuff, but old buildings, it was cool. But it was probably past its prime, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, I love the 90s. I thought once it got after, like, when I graduated in 2005, I always felt like things became a little bit more or less industrialized and like that booming, bring your family here, raise
like a renovation, like a renaissance in a sense.
Yeah. And it just changed. It didn't have that homey feeling. Like I jokingly used to say when COVID hit and all the prices of properties skyrocketed, why don't we just sell this, take all the equity, and go buy something in cash in cheap town?
Yeah.
Because you got to find the right place to do it too, and all the things have to line up. But I always said that would have been kind of cool because you pay for your house.
Yeah.
And,
I'm with you.
And I look back,
But those are some long winters.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know if I could go back to Maine. Like I could go to a small town, maybe even Midwest,
Mississippi,
Mississippi, Tennessee,
the
the Carolinas.
A lot of people are. A lot of people are moving to those towns.
It's not as cheap anymore either.
No, the prices have gone up. So I do have to ask you, because you are a millennial. So what is the online dating scene like? Is it as much of a dumpster fire as everyone says?
I mean, listen, I think if you're really looking, I just think that there's a stigma, I guess, to it, right? Is like you're really hesitant, even if you meet somebody or match up with somebody, right? Is like, are you really getting somebody that's being real with you? Are you gonna get catfished? Are you gonna, is this, like that small town feeling, right? Of being loyal, right? Meeting somebody online, are you really getting their loyalty? I mean, it soon may develop that,
right,
or get to that, but there's not that authentic meet and greet, face to face, bond, I guess, that you kind of make right off. It takes a lot more. It's not organic. It's almost somewhat forced in a sense that you're like, what do we talk about? You don't just come across and say you're from here. You grew up doing this stuff. We have a common ground, whether it be work, school. What are you studying? What when some of those finer relationships, I guess, start. So I'm very hesitant to online dating. I mean, like I said, we didn't have a real strong foundation necessarily, like, right? It was just like, all right, we're dating, there are no real friendship build up to it. You're not in groups going out with 8 or 10 people. It's like, all right, you want to go out tonight one-on-one. It's not like, oh, we're going to get a big group of guys. We're going to go to a concert. Now we're slowly bonding, or you're friends with her, your sister's friend, something like that. It's just
no history.
It's just it's a real weird thing, and I'm not and not against it or anything like that. You can definitely build that organic partnership and that loyalty, because I still think that that's the two people that they decide that ultimately if they want that. But I think it's just not as organic and authentic as it maybe once was.
Do you think it's possible to have that old school dating at all again in society?
It's going to be really hard. Um, and I even say from this standpoint, it's like even now at 38, it's like if I want to go out and meet somebody, right? I don't necessarily want to just go to the bar and we're out here having drinks or something like that. Now maybe in an event, right? Or um, like I said, work. Um, I always joke around with like my daughter now, right? She's getting into dance. You start seeing a lot of these people every week. You start, building other relationships, friends of friends, and so forth. Like you can use it as like almost like a spider web. How far can you extend your spider web and then have that kind of real authentic connection with somebody? And does it spark that way?
Yeah.
School, right? Maybe now. I mean, let's not get away from it. The single or co-parenting setup now is a lot more prevalent than it once probably was, in the sense that I feel like, watching my parents, like through thick and thin, like now I watch my mom, who's my dad's in assisted living, and she still goes and spends almost every waking day or hour with him. And I'm like, you could be out doing things, playing pickleball. She goes to the gym, you could be traveling. Like they always had that envision of just driving all over the country in the RV. And it's like, now you're kind of stuck. And she's like, well, but I'm with dad, I'm not stuck. And like, she's living with me. And I always say, it's like, it's kind of coming full circle now. Like, I grew up with you, and now and like,
but that's her person,
right? And I always say, like, she's always like, I hope I'm not like, intruding or being burdensome, and I'm like, no, not. I'm like, first of all, if I was to meet somebody and if they can't accept that I'm gonna, ultimately bring you home and to my mother or whatever, right? Then I probably shouldn't be out with
not
you
the right person.
anyway. I mean, if I'm not comfortable bringing you home to my mom, like you're gonna have to meet my mom at some point.
No, I mean,
it's
a good point.
Maybe not right off, but
no, it makes sense. I hope that some old school organic dating somehow gets brought back into society. Right. I think that it would help everyone. But to your point, I think like you said, here at these different places, maybe I know there's a lot of running clubs and people. So I think clubs, like adults, or even like the softball, like adults are doing things. And I think that's where it will be more organic, is in those situations as opposed to online dating.
No, I totally. And to, go back, right, in real relationships, right? You guys, I mean, think back, you probably met out or through friends, right?
College,
right? So, there's a foundation, a bond that's, raised. Not everybody's available via social media, like, oh, this girl's hot, I'm gonna send her a message. And then, listen, we're human, right? We all may wonder, is the grass greener on the other side? And being so accessible, right, in a relationship, you might wonder. Then I do think it leads to a lot of splits,
infidelity.
Infidelity, right? There's that loyalty isn't the same. Like I just like always use my mom as that example, is like, to think that you're just saying, and I hate to say it like that because it is my father and everything, but like, he wears a Depend, he's at the facility, he needs constant care, and she's 10 years younger than him, able to go out, do things, still have a life, but yet she wants to sit there and spend it with him, and kudos, right? And there's just not a lot of that. I don't think anymore. Like, just because of they ran a business together. They had a foundation.
They built a life together.
Exactly.
I think with a lot of younger generations, they think they're supposed to have everything before they even get married, not understanding that the marriage is building that together. Like we started with nothing. We literally lived in a house probably the size of this room when we brought Nathan home, and maybe a teeny bit bigger. And what we built together is the marriage, and that's the bond you're talking about. But
it's the journey.
It's the journey. But with social media and with all the FOMO, and with all the comparisons, everyone's like, well, once I buy a house, and once I get here, once I get there, once I have everything perfect, then I'm going. But it's like you've just skipped over everything without you're supposed to be doing that with your partner.
Right.
That's the bond.
Yep.
And that's the life, So I do think social media has something to do with that. Breaking that down.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think social media has its pros and cons for sure. I kind of watching everything unfold now, I kind of think there's a lot more cons than there are pros. I mean, unfortunately, I see social media as like a way to interact with some of my former teammates.
Yeah.
Keep up and see how they're doing with their families and whatnot. I don't really see it as a like, I'm going to promote my business or this, that. And it's like, don't get me wrong. I do think that is a pro in the grand scheme of things. But then again, now the more you market, the more accessible you are. If you are in a relationship, there are tough times. Everybody faces them, good, bad, and different. There's ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah.
When it's bad and you're accessible.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. Someone can slide right in.
Yeah,
and not knowing that that's a relationship and you have ups and downs. You don't need that extra challenge coming in to make things even more difficult.
It can be toxic for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Had probably some dance competition.
You'll be up at Disney's Wide World of Sports before they do that.
That's right, because she'll be 11.
Yeah. 5 years. I mean, listen, I've always said when I had her, my like 15, 20-year goal for her, like by the time she got in high school, I always said I wanted to have some kind of a passive income, right? Of, that like $5,000 threshold, right? Where you could maybe pay your generic bills, right? With a passive income, just to be able to open doors for her, right? Once you get into that middle school, early high school days, it's like, now where do you want to go? And, I always say like going on experiences, traveling a little bit, seeing outside, like coming from that small town and knowing that there is more outside of than just where you grow up, was always important to me to show to her. So, I mean, having some kind of some passive income or create something to be able to give to her, right? Always thought about maybe even buying like property somewhere in her name. Just I had a buddy who his uncle, when he passed, he left them some money, and when they went to college, he ended up buying a condo or like a townhome in the small college town where they went.
That's smart.
Right. He's got 3 buddies. They all now paid him rent while they were at college, and now they use it as a rental.
It's so smart.
And it's like, man, what a gene,
If you can do that, do that. Because we had Nathan and Kaya we had 8 years at FSU. Of course, we didn't know, and it was like she was going to go there too. But if we could go back, because the rent you pay, is insane. We could have easily bought a place. So that's one piece of advice I would say. Once you know where she's going, and you can go for it,
right? And then at the end of the day, right? You can have all the money you want, but when you start talking about, being financial savvy and getting, loans, being able to leverage your financial status or anything, right? You have to have an asset. So like, if you can have an asset and borrow against it, right? Or, show some kind of stability, right? They're more apt to, loan you more money.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
There's no shortage.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think those are all great goals, and I love that they're centered around your daughter.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. Your daughter's very lucky.
Yeah.
Just hearing you speak about your 5-year plan, it's really all about her. That's very lucky. It's kudos to you, man.
Thanks.
Like I said, you're an amazing girl dad.
Yeah, I embrace it. That's for sure. I'm not gonna say I'm perfect by any means, but that is my pride and joy for sure.
Well, we look forward to having you on again, maybe in like 5 years, and seeing where she is, and seeing where, or 3 years somewhere where we can hear about like where you guys are.
Perfect. We'll still be playing some men's league slow pitch softball. Nathan out there. I mean, he got everybody out there this week.
He did.
We had to fill some spots this week.
Family affair.
Well, I think you have Kaya now. She loves it. So
Perfect.
she was little behind the scenes on her is she played every single sport.
Okay.
Every single sport from the time softball started at 5, but made varsity, everything. She just was that natural talent. Went to states for cross country, soccer, all that. So, and then what's interesting is when she hit senior year, she said, I don't want to do any of it anymore. I'm done. And we even had to take down all her trophies in her room, and she changed. She's like, I'm done. Then she became a gym rat.
Okay.
And then she kind of took a break for a couple years and then got back into, the gym and everything. But what's funny about when she played the other night, she's like, it's my competitive, I felt it again. So it's like once you're out there again, she's like, all of a sudden it's like it all came back. Like she's so competitive.
I can't give it up. I look at it as an outlet now. Like it's a way just to get out. It's an hour. It's a way away from everything. It separates work, kind of like time to myself. And he even likes coming to the games too now and running around.
I don't think we've seen. Well, we've only been to 2 or 3, so we haven't seen her yet.
She came to. She came 2 weeks ago to the 7:30 game, I think.
Okay, we weren't there.
Yeah, missed that one.
Yeah. So we'll see her one of these nights.
You'll see her. She's a crazy. She'll be nonstop.
I can't wait.
Climbing around on the bleachers and everything.
I look forward. Cool. I look forward to it. So thank you for sharing your story with us, Andrew.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
It was so really interesting, cool. And getting your perspective, especially on as an athlete that went to school, and your perspective on that. I think a lot of listeners will find that very interesting because a lot of them are in the thick of it, whether they're parents or they're student athletes, and hearing your perspective can offer a lot of clarity. That in particular,
dad too is
being a girl dad, for sure. So thank you so much.
Thank you. The best advice I can say is this too shall pass.
That's
always.
Yes. Yeah. That's and wonderful advice.
Good things, bad things, they all come and go.
Yeah. It's so true. So true. And thank you to our listeners. If you have any comments or questions, we welcome them. We love to hear from you, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.